Hi everyone, I'm Kim Vopni, your Vagina coach, and in this workout we are going to go through 5 different innovative pelvic floor exercises. For equipment, what you're going to need is a rolled up towel, a hand towel or a small bath towel will do. I'm also going to use my stability ball and a chair if you have one. And I'm also going to use the wall. I think most people will have a wall. So that's all you're going to need for this workout. I also am using my gorilla mat here if you have a yoga mat at home, or you can even just do the floor exercises on a carpet somewhere. Okay, so to start out with, I'm taking my towel and I'm going to lift my bum up and I'm going to put it under one side, so one butt cheek. My sits bone, that bone in my pelvis, is on top of that towel. And I want to make sure that I'm in a neutral pelvis position. So I don't want to be tucked under and slouchy. I'm going to nod my pubic joint forward so that my vulva is on the surface of the chair. Well, part of it is, because the other side is a little bit elevated, and that's going to be where we start. The exercise is actually to lift this side up off of the chair so that I come into a neutral, kind of an even pelvis, and then I'm going to let it come back down. Okay, so I'm bringing it up and down. So I'm going to do this without a Kegel, without a core breath. I'm just going to allow the muscles to do what they need to do in order to elevate that side of the pelvis up and then come back down. So as you lift, there's a kind of a coming together of the sit bones. It's activating the pelvic floor, and then as I lower down, as that side comes down, there's a lengthening that's happening in the pelvic floor. Okay, so if you would like to add a Kegel or what I call the core breath to this, we're going to exhale and engage the pelvic floor, then lift, and then inhale and lengthen as we come back down. Let's switch and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so putting it under my left sits bone, making sure I'm in that neutral pelvis, meaning my hip bones and my pubic joint are in the same plane. My vulva, or this side of my vulva, is on the surface of the chair. And now I'm going to elevate it up and then let it come back down. Elevate up and come back down. If I want to add the core breath, and I'll do another couple of reps without adding that core breath in, just allowing the pelvic floor to do what it's supposed to do. Pelvic floor exercise is more than just Kegels. So Kegels are one form of pelvic floor exercise, and they do have some value. But we also want to make sure that we allow the pelvic floor an opportunity to do what it's supposed to do on its own without us directing it, without us activating it. Let it activate as it needs to, depending on the activity that we're doing. I'm going to do one more repetition here. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the next exercise. So I'm going to take my towel out. I'm going to shift it off to the side. The next exercise, we're going to use a stability ball. So I'm just going to move my chair out of the way, and I'm going to grab my ball. The reason I like the ball exercise, or the ball for this exercise, is because I can kind of roll with the ball. So we're going to do some pelvic tilts here, and I'm going to show you face on and also sideways. And basically what we're doing is we're just going to curl. Think about your pubic joint almost curling up towards the belly button, or you could think about it curling up towards the chin. So we're tucking the bum underneath us, we're tucking the tailbone underneath us, and then we're going to lengthen that back down. So we can use the ball to help kind of exaggerate the motion of the pelvis. Okay? Again, we're going to do some with and without the core breath, because again, we want to teach the pelvic floor, remind the pelvic floor what part of the movement we want to activate it in. But then we also want to give it an opportunity to just respond and do what it needs to do in this exercise. Okay, so I'm sitting up in a neutral pelvis. My sits bones, I can feel them on the ball. My vulva is on the surface of the ball. My hip bones and my pubic joint are in the same plane. I'm not tucked under here, although that is the motion we're going into. But I'm going to start in neutral. My feet are pelvis width apart. Without the core breath here, I'm just now tucking the pelvis underneath me. So I'm drawing that pubic joint up, tailbone is tucking under, and then I'm going to lengthen that tailbone away and nod the pubic joint back down. Okay, so that is the motion here. And you're probably going to feel a little bit of activation into the glutes as well. So I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see what it looks like from the side here. So I'm tucking that tailbone, drawing that pubic joint up, and then lengthening it away. Tuck and lengthen away. And use the ball to help kind of riding that movement. If you have a chair, a slippery surface chair, you could do the same thing on there, but I do like the ball for this exercise. Okay, so now we're gonna add the core breath in here. So I'm gonna inhale and expand, blossom my vulva. I'm gonna exhale and curl, so that's engaged. Inhale, blossom that vulva, lengthen that tailbone away. Exhale, curl. Inhale, blossom. Exhale, curl. One more. And relax. Some people tell me when they are doing exercises like this, especially if they're upright, that they don't feel the pelvic floor activation as much as they do if they're just still or maybe if they're down on the ground. Part of that is because we're upright against gravity. The other part is we're adding in movement, and especially on the ball, there's a lot of motion to control. But the other thing is sometimes being upright and moving, the pelvic floor is actually partially already doing its job. It's already working. And when it is already partially engaged or active, when we add a voluntary contraction on, there may not be that much left to contract. So it may mean that we're not relaxing completely, or it may mean that the pelvic floor is already doing its job and maybe we shouldn't even really intervene. So those are a couple of reasons for that. But anyway, we're finished. We're going to move on to our next exercise. I'm going to push my ball off to the side. We're going to come down now and do a similar exercise in a sense with curling and uncurling the pelvis, except we're going to be in the cat-cow position from yoga. So you're going to come down onto all fours, and you want to bring your knees underneath your hips. Your toes are going to be untucked behind you, and you're going to put your wrists underneath your shoulders. And from here, the motion is to curl, again, that pubic joint up towards the belly button, and then to lengthen the sits bones and that sacrum. You almost think about your sacrum lifting up towards the ceiling. Okay, so tucking under and lengthening up is the motion. Okay, you can leave your neck in neutral. You could also hang it down if you like, whatever feels best for you. So we're going to start without the core breath, and then we will add that in. Okay, so we're going to tuck first, and you want to also exaggerate that motion in the upper back, like the angry hissing cat. And then we're going to lengthen away, and we're going to look up, and then we're going to tuck and hunch that back and lengthen away. If that feels uncomfortable, you can keep the neck still and just move the pelvis. And we're not adding the voluntary engagement here. We're just going through the movement. And then another couple of reps, we will add on that core breath. I'm going to add back in my neck movement here. Now reaching that neck up, lengthening the tailbone away. Here's your last one, tucking that pubic joint up towards the belly button, and now lengthening that tailbone away from you. Good. Now let's add the core breath. So we're going to exhale as we draw that pubic joint up towards the belly button. Now inhale, lengthen, blossom the vulva as you extend your sit bones away from you. Exhale and curl. Inhale, expand, lengthen. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale. Inhale. Let's do 2 more. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lengthen. Spreading those sit bones apart. Last one. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lengthen and release. Okay. Now we're going to come to the wall. So we're going to use the wall behind me, and I'm going to put my feet up on the wall, and we're going to do sort of like a bridge, but my feet are going to be elevated on the wall. And then we're going to come down to a final movement on the mat as well. So come over to the wall and come kind of up fairly snug, and then you're going to lay down on your side and roll over so that your feet are on the wall. I'm actually going to push myself back just a titch. So feet are pelvis width apart, and the movement here is just to lift the pelvis up off the ground and put it back down. Now I'm not curling first and then lifting. You could do that, but in this exercise, I'm just going to lift from a neutral pelvis position and come back down to a neutral pelvis position. Okay. You can play around with your feet position as to where it feels more comfortable. You don't want to have your feet down below the knees, below sort of what would be a 90-degree angle. You want to have 90 degrees or maybe even a little bit more. The further away your feet are, the more hamstrings we're going to be working on. I like to have my feet at about a 90-degree-ish angle, and I'm going to press up and then lower back down. So I'm not adding the core breath here. I'm keeping my pelvis in neutral, meaning when I come back down, there's actually a little gentle curve in my back. My back is not pressed flat into the mat. There's a gentle curve there. I'm keeping that curve as I lift up and lower back down. Okay, so just working on the glutes. Strong glutes are really helpful and supportive of the pelvic floor. And if you would like, you could put a ball or a block in between your legs to kind of help the tracking of your knees, but also if you have something there to squeeze, it can activate a little bit into the inner thighs, which translates up into the pelvic floor as well. So that's another option for you. So I'm just going to do another couple of reps here without the breath, and then I'm going to add in that voluntary activation with the core breath. Okay, so I'm going to exhale and I'm going to engage and lift. Now I'm going to inhale, lengthen my pelvic floor as I come back down. Exhale, contract and lift. Good. Inhale, lower back down. Exhale to engage. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. And last one. This exercise is especially helpful for people with prolapse. It can be done multiple times in the day. And the elevation of the bum and sort of those hips it helps to alleviate that heaviness and that fullness and that pressure we can feel, especially as the day progresses when we are experiencing pelvic organ prolapse. Final exercise we're going to do here I call Cobra curls. So we're going to come down into the Cobra pose from yoga. I'm going to be on my belly with my legs spread out in front of behind me. My arms are going to be up in Cobra pose, and then from there, I'm going to do a kind of a curl of my pubic joint and almost lifting my upper body, kind of curling my upper body so that my pelvis actually lifts off of the ground. And then we are going to let it go and lengthen. So again, go through a series without the breath, and then I'm going to add the breath in. Okay, so coming down onto my belly, my legs are spread, extended behind me. My elbows are underneath my shoulders, so I am in Cobra pose here. And I'm going to keep my neck fairly neutral here, but the movement is essentially I'm going to start by almost pressing my pubic joint towards the mat, but thinking about it curling in towards my belly so that I lift it off, lift my whole belly and pelvis off, and then I come back down into the full expression of Cobra. Okay, so I curl that pubic joint towards the belly, lifting the pelvis and the belly off the mat, and then I lengthen back down. You're probably going to feel quite a lot of activation, almost like burning into your abs, into your belly. It's a really, really, really good core exercise. Okay, curl and lift and lengthen back down. You don't have to come up very high. Curl and lift and lengthen down. Let's do one more without the breath, and then we're going to add that core breath in. Really fire up that core. Okay, so we're going to exhale, curl, inhale. Let the pelvic floor go as we lower back down. Exhale, curl. Exhale, engage that pelvic floor, curl. Blossom and release as you come back down. Exhale, curl. And let's do two more here. And we are done. So there are 5 innovative exercises to strengthen your pelvic floor. You can do it with and or without the breath. And I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks so much for working out with me today.